I got Al. Al is going to do it. I said, Al who? Al Pacino.
There's no crying. There's no crying in baseball.
Hey folks, Brian Lally here, Hollywood native, and you're about to watch the show, Brian Lally, Hollywood native. I'm sitting here today, as usual, with my partner in crime, Scott Williams. Scott, how are you?
I'm doing great, Brian. How are you?
I'm fantastic, better than ever.
Excellent.
So who do we have on the show today?
Today, Brian, we have a great guest, John Medici.
We do have John Medici. And Scott said Medici because that's what I used to call him. But his name is John Medici, and John is a great guest. Born in East Harlem, John did study acting with the legendary teacher, Lee Strasberg, at his legendary facility, the Actors Studio in New York City, the home of many greats. And John actually, at a young age, was in a play that Lee tore apart in rehearsal, and he didn't think he was going to get to do it, but the director contacted him and said, Al's going to do it with you. And he said, Al who? He said, Al Pacino. Anyway, so that started a lifelong association with Al Pacino. He's got many good stories, became a career educator, teaching acting on the college level, and continued to act. He's going to talk about his association with Luther Adler, Stella Adler's brother and Jacob Adler's son, a royal family of theater in New York City, and part of the founding members of the group theater, which is why we act the way we do today. So hear those stories and more. John Medici, coming at you. Where were you born?
Hi, I'm John Medici.
That's it.
You didn't even introduce me, for
That's
God's
okay,
sakes.
because we're acting like we're just talking.
We're acting like we're natural.
Not anymore. That's all gone out the
I was
window.
born in New York City, of course, but in a particular neighborhood, which I'm now, in my older years, very proud of. I was born in East Harlem, which is on 114th Street and First Avenue. East Harlem, to anybody who was raised in New York City, is well known to people. Everybody knows what Harlem is, which is the west side, but we were on the east side, East Harlem, and it was a very big, when I was a kid, a very big Italian community, very, very big Italian community. And, you know, I was a kid, I went to the parochial school around the corner, came home for lunch, you know, that kind of thing. Mm-hmm. And after the 8th grade, I graduated, and I went to a Catholic high school, Cardinal Hayes in the Bronx. I'm a real New York guy.
Is Cardinal Hayes famous for some reason?
Well, it was recently in a movie.
Right.
An Adam Sandler movie, the basketball movie, about when he's an agent.
Yeah, yeah.
And they had the tryouts or something, or the exhibition game up at Cardinal Hayes High School. And they even gave the correct address, 650 Grand Concourse. It was right across from Yankee Stadium.
Oh, okay.
Yes. Now I have to tell you about Cardinal Hayes High School. It was a very big boys' Catholic high school. A lot of students. They had very strict rules because, I'll tell you why. Father Jablonski, who was the dean of discipline, he told us, he said, now we're in a Jewish neighborhood. So when you go out onto the street there, our Jewish neighbors are going to be watching. And I want you to be gentlemen. So no smoking within 5 streets, right and left of this. Do not smoke. Now, I got suspended for 1 week for smoking on the concourse. You couldn't do it. And we had to be very aware of our neighbors.
Right.
And had to keep our appearances just perfect, you know.
I got detention at Notre Dame High School for smoking while I was hitchhiking on the Woodman Avenue on-ramp.
Oh.
I was hitchhiking with another buddy, and one of the teachers came by and saw us smoking. We were a block away. We were too close to the school.
Exactly. So we have that in common.
Yes, we do.
I was actually suspended for a week. I was also suspended another time by, let's see, I think his name was Father, it could have been McGuire or McConnelly or something like that. An Irish priest.
Mick something.
And it was the day after St. Patrick's Day, and I'm a wise guy.
Was he hungover at the time?
He was. I came in to the homeroom class, and there was Father, you know, with his head on the desk. I said, hey, Father, you hung over, right, from yesterday's parade? Get out, get out. He just yelled at me, go to Father Jablonski, you're suspended.
Oh, wow.
So that was it. I had to walk out of the school.
Yeah.
Of course, it was the middle of the week, and a day went by, and then the next day, he telephoned my house.
Right.
And he said, "It's okay. You can come back." And I went back, and I apologized. So I was only gone for a day.
Yeah.
Day and a half.
A lot of the mix pretend they're not drunks. I never had that problem.
Well, I marched in that parade. The Cardinal Hayes would march every
Right.
year. We used to have a Columbus Day parade,
Right.
and I also marched in that.
Was it in high school? When did you get interested in performing?
Well, I was always a cut up, in the class and all
Right.
of that. But in high school, no, I got very serious in my senior year, and I decided I really wanted to become a priest. So right from high school, in the summer of 1955, I entered a monastery, a Franciscan monastery, and I was there for 2+ years.
Wow.
Yeah, I was a Franciscan monk. I took my vows after a year, and then we went up to Lowell, Massachusetts. But the first year was spent at Immaculate Conception Monastery up in Troy, New York.
Wow.
I write about it in my book. It was quite an experience. There was a lot of humor there. But I will tell you one thing. People think that when you go to lock yourself in a monastery, right, and you'll be safe from the world.
Right.
I have to tell you, they have a saying, and it actually was told to us, by some of the other priests and brothers who were working there.
Right.
The devils sit on monastery walls just waiting to leap in, So you're not saved from the world at all, as long as there are other people around.
Right.
You are part of the world.
So there was a lot of other deviants in there waiting to deviate?
Well, first, a lot of guys just quit right off the bat.
Right.
Now, my best friend went with me. His name was Marco Vassi, V-A-S-S-I. Now, he's a very important character in my life. You can look him up, actually, on Google. Just Google Marco Vassi, V-A-S-S-I. He was a writer.
You get that, Scott? Oh, he's on it. Why do I question my man here?
There you are. Oh.
Yeah.
So Marco became a very well-known writer of pornography.
Oh.
I always remember that because his mother had all of his books, but she never read one. And she had them on a shelf, I remember.
Yeah. He became adept
I
at
loved
writing
Mark.
ooh, ah, eh.
Well, he came with me to the monastery. See, Marco, I loved him so much, I can't tell you. He wrote that play that Al Pacino and I were in.
Right.
At this time.
Right.
Right after the monastery, a few years later. The point is that he came with me because he was a comedian, and it was a good idea. I think I'll become a monk. So he went. So we take our vows. The first year you don't take your vows. We get our habits. That's called investiture. Mm-hmm. Our families all came up. Marco's parents came up. My parents came up. Relatives and all of that. And they watch us take off our jackets and our shirts and don the habit. We took off our shoes inside. We didn't take off our pants. But normally, that's what we did. We wore just underwear and a T-shirt, bare feet, sandals, all year long. We lived just like Francis of Assisi 700 years before.
That's how it all got started.
That was me.
Yeah.
So Mark was there with me, and the first week passes, and it was okay. And I got one of the assignments was to work on the farm with this priest because it was summertime. It was August, late August, and the tomatoes were coming in, and we had to tie up the plants and all of that. So Marco and I, about 10 days into it, are down there, and we're tying up the tomato plants to the stakes and all of that. And I got my work clothes on, and he's got his on. And suddenly he gets up. He rises, and he looks down at me, and he says, "What the fuck am I doing here?" And he throws his tools down, and he walks away. And he went home that very day. He insisted on going home that very day. He didn't even wait. There was a late-night bus. He took a bus, and he was back to East Harlem by the end of that day. And when he got home, his mother called back to the monastery, okay? And she said to the priest in charge, "Oh, my restless son." And I always thought that that was a very good moniker for Marco because he was a very restless man. He did die at the age of, I think he was about 51.
Oh, it's too bad.
Yeah, he died in 1989. And
Child.
yeah, I have many letters of his written to me, and I saved them. He was a philosopher, but he was always a kid from the neighborhood. He always had a great sense of humor. But he went on to become a very well-known writer.
Right.
And in 1966, he wrote this play. Well,
Right.
I was in graduate school, and I was studying theater in graduate school at NYU. And it was actually radio and television production is what it was called, because it was before NYU had a theater school. And all
Sure,
that.
sure. Tisch and all that.
Anyway, we wrote little plays,
Right.
and you know, I directed little plays that he wrote, and so on at NYU. And then he wrote this play. Mm-hmm. It was called Why Is a Crooked Letter? And it was 1966. Now, FYI, when I left the monastery, I did not enter the theater and become a theater actor or anything like that at all. I had a lot of other jobs, public relations. I worked at CBS Radio. I was even a director at radio and all of that. And in 1966, January, or maybe it was even December of 65, I got fired from my last job, which was a public relations job. I was a writer for the Titanium Metals Corporation of America. I worked straight-laced as a writer, PR writer, for a Midwestern great metals firm. You know, like it belonged, I think, to Bethlehem Steel. Titanium Metals Corporation of America. And they made the mistake of sending me to Las Vegas. They sent me to Henderson, Nevada, outside of Vegas, to the factory where they were making titanium. And my job was with the photographer to take pictures of how you produced it, and then I was going to write articles about it. And the office was in Henderson, but I lived in Las Vegas at a hotel, one of the casino hotels. And I had a devil inside of me. You know, there's no doubt about it.
Well.
I always did. You let me loose in Las Vegas at that time, and I'm a young guy, and I'm very interested in show business. I get to know a dancer, a guy who was a dancer, and he knew all the girls, and he knew all the dancing, and so we started going out at 11 o'clock at night after the shows.
Right.
I was up till 3 in the morning. I mean, it was wild in Las Vegas. Then I'd go into this straight-laced company at a factory,
Right.
you know, making titanium in Henderson, Nevada. And I was late every morning. Every morning. I walked in at 10 o'clock every day. The manager was going crazy. I said, but look, I get the work done. I stay late. And you know.
Oh, my God. That's my mantra. Yeah, in my life. I get it done.
So
I don't
he
want to
fired-
play by your hours.
Anyway, he fired me.
Right.
Not he, but when I got back to New York.
Right.
And now it's 1966, and I was married, and my wife said, so now what are you going to do? I said, I'm going to become a stand-up comic.
Right.
What? A stand-up Really? You're going to be a stand-up? Yes, I'm going to become a stand-up comic. That's what I want to do. And, of course, you know, it's a peculiar thing to come home to your wife, you know, and you were once a monk. Then you were a TV director, radio director. Then you were a public relations guy for a Midwestern firm, and now you want to be a stand-up comic. And it's 1966. So I did start, and I went around looking for agents and things like that, and I didn't have anything to offer, but I wrote some little routines, and they were funny, and I started to go into those clubs, you know, like the Improv, and there was an Improv then.
Right.
I knew the owner. He later came to L.A.
Was it Bud Friedman?
Bud Freeman. I knew him very
Oh,
well.
okay.
On 46th Street was his 10th Avenue was his
Right.
place. But I also did the Champagne Gallery downtown. I did there was other places in Greenwich Village.
So in the 60s in the East Village, Chevy Chase and Richard Pryor and Lily Tomlin
Well,
were really getting started.
yeah, I didn't know them particularly. I
Right.
did know about Richard Pryor.
Right.
And unless my memory is not correct, Richard Pryor was more straight-laced than I was with the suit.
Yeah.
Yes.
At that time.
And he had jokes and a routine, and he was a black comic, you know.
Right.
So I heard him once. I also heard Bob Dylan play down
Right.
there once.
The Bottom Line. He played
That's
that.
the other place, yeah,
Yeah.
the Bottom Line.
Yeah.
That was it. It was called. They had folk singers.
Yeah.
And I used to go to all of these places, you know, and I do my little bit, you know. You know, when we drove up here, you said, let's not talk in the car because,
Well, yeah.
okay, I was a comic who did his best bits in the car going to the place.
Well, yeah.
I'm the fighter who left his fight in the dressing room, if you know what I mean. Mm-hmm. I would be the most natural, funny, I thought. I was told, Jesus, John, you're funny. Then I'd get on stage and I couldn't do it.
Right.
I couldn't be me. I even changed my name. I had a different name.
What was it?
I thought being a Medici was just, it was too Italian. you
Right.
know. And I envisioned, you know, Las Vegas and Medici. No, you can't do that.
Even though the Italians own Las Vegas, you
It
couldn't?
doesn't matter. No, I know those guys too. I went to Miami once. But anyway,
Cryptic.
so I called myself Johnny Armen, A-R-M-E-N. And now people thought I was Armenian.
Right.
Now, I don't know which is worse, being Italian or being Armenian. But in either event, I was ethnic. You couldn't matter. You know, it didn't matter. So I was Johnny Armen. And I was doing this stand-up. I had routines and things. And one time at Bud Freeman's place, I saw Rodney Dangerfield. You know, he came up. There were a lot of wonderful comedians.
You had Woody Allen doing stand-up there, too.
Yes, I even went to Woody Allen's apartment once when he was playing the clarinet on Monday nights and doing a stand-up with the radio station that I worked for. We interviewed him. So they were all my heroes. And
You must have just missed my father. My father did radio for years in New York, and he came out to California late 50s. And my dad ended up directing radio for Armed Forces Radio.
I was a radio director. In fact, the person that I worked for in New York was very well known, Ed Joyce. He went on to become the president of CBS News and later wrote a book about CBS. You know, it was like a tell-all book about the behind-the-scenes stuff. I worked with him. I worked with a newscaster named Kenneth Banghart, who was very popular in New York, very popular. He had a
Sounds
show-
like he'd be popular with a name like that.
Banghart, yeah. But he was very popular from 4 in the afternoon to 6, during
Right.
drive time. Anyway, the point is this. I get fired. I tell my wife I want to be a stand-up comic. And I do a few of these gigs. I get some paying gigs, just stupid things. I won't even go into it because
Right.
the important thing is this. My wife at the time was actually a member of the Actors Studio. Now, she was not a member in the sense that she had an audition. She was working with Gypsy Rose Lee's sister. Anyway, the actress, the very well-known actress.
I wish I knew who that was.
I'm so
I don't
sorry.
know.
She was doing a play called Marathon 33. It later became a very successful Broadway play, and it was a project
Right.
at the Actors Studio. So who was Gypsy Rose Lee's sister?
Natalie Wood was in the movie, right?
In the movie, but this is the real Gypsy Rose Lee had a sister. You know, hi everybody, I'm Baby. What the hell was her name?
Well, we're about to find out.
Yes, I know. Anyway, she was doing this play called Marathon 33. So she was involved at the Actors Studio. She was really studying acting, and I was very impressed, but I didn't think I was an actor. You know, I was a stand-up comic.
Right.
I had this persona.
Yeah.
You know,
Hey.
Jackie Mason, you know.
Right. Oh, yeah.
So she said, you got to study acting.
Your wife?
My wife.
Oh, okay.
You have to study acting.
Very rare for a wife to say, especially back then, hey, you have to study acting.
She was very serious. She read all the books. She read The Fervent Years before I did. She knew everything about the Actors Studio. One of her best friends was Richard Castellano, you know, who played
Clemenza.
in The Godfather. Yeah. Leave the gun, take the cannoli.
Right.
One more time.
Clemenza.
Clemenza, right. Richard Castellano. I
Yeah,
knew him when he was an acting student. He did scenes with my wife. So You got to study acting. So we went to this guy named Alec Rubin. And Alec had just got back from the Esalen Institute. So all we did when we went up to his studio on 72nd Street, it was a big loft, apartment loft. We'd lie on the floor and, and feel our bodies and all that. And he would give directions like, I want you to feel like Jesus Christ blowing in the wind. I don't know what the hell his directions were. And I'm lying on the floor there, He was doing body work, and sense memory. And I had no idea what the hell he's doing. I had no idea. What the hell is this guy doing? So Marco Vassi writes a play called Why is a Crooked Letter? And he says, you're going to this acting school. Let me bring the play to Alec Rubin, the director. So he brings it to Alec, and Alec says, oh, this is great. This is wonderful. It's a great play, new playwright and everything. And he does a little scene from the play. He does it at the actor's studio. Okay? With an actor, I don't know who it was, but it was with me and my wife and this actor. And Lee Strasberg, lit into him terribly. I mean, he just really lit into, but it was all about the director. It wasn't about the play, not a word said. Okay? So we get back to the studio, and the actor who was playing the main role, he quits, and we're just doing our exercises and everything. And then one day Alex says, I got Al. Al is going to do it. I said, Al who? Al Pacino.
Man, Brian, you know what I love doing?
Yeah.
I love tapping that subscribe button.
I love it too, son. And just like all your dates, I tap it last. But nothing's as good as tapping this button.
You see Brian here? He's not always doing the best. Financially, mentally, physically, for sure. You want to help keep Brian off the streets of Hollywood? There's a way you can help. Join us on Patreon. You want to tell them what we got on there, buddy?
Yes, we have the general admission, we have the backstage, and we have the VIP all-access pass. So please join today. I'm due for a bath.
In the arms of the angel,
He's going to do the play, and I didn't know who the hell he was. Nobody knew who he was. And one night he shows up, and we start rehearsing. Now I'm rehearsing with this young guy, and he was young, a little younger than I am. He was maybe 2 years younger. He was from the Bronx. I knew that. He had absolutely no money at all. When I say no money, I mean no money, okay? And I used to say to Shirley, stop buying this guy Chinese food, will you please? Every time we go out, stop buying him beers, will you? I mean, let him take care of him. She was giving him cigarettes. She was giving him beers. So I become friendly with Al, We become friendly, and we start doing the play. And it's a play. And I'm playing his best friend in the play. And the play was about a young man named Johnny. And it was during the Cuban Missile Crisis, 1962. And he was a young man. It took place in 62, but we did this in 1966. And nobody knew who Al Pacino was. I want you to know that. They didn't know who I was. They didn't know who anybody was. Somehow or other, in his loft, we set up little chairs. We could seat about 35 people. It was in his living room, really.
Right.
And we did this play, and I played his best friend. And we both got stoned, we smoked grass and did the scene that way. But it was the Cuban Missile Crisis was in the play.
Right.
So there was any moment we were going to be atomic bombed. That was part of the play. But the other part of the play was that he needed to find himself.
Right.
We do the play, and it's very successful. Son of a gun. People are coming. People are coming Thursday night, Friday night, Saturday night. And we'd collect all the money, and then we would divvy it up. And I remember that one night we got $35 between me and Shirley. So we got $17.50 each or something. And of course, Al got his $17. We went on like this. And toward the end run of the play, I had a gig as a comedian in upstate New York, so I had to leave. I had a gig as the master of ceremonies at a dude ranch in Peekskill, New York.
Ah, my mom had a house there.
So I had to leave. He said, "Why are you leaving?" I said, "Al, he liked me.
Right.
Why are you leaving?" I said, "I got to do the gig. I'm up there. I do the emceeing bit, and and I do shtick and stuff like that." And see, I had been at Catskill Mountain this summer before.
Oh, you did the Borscht Belt?
Just the Catskill Mountains, just a hotel, one hotel.
Oh, okay.
And I was the tumula, that's the guy who makes all the noise. I was the MC. I sat at the family table. That's how I learned all the Yiddish. And I watched every comedian who came up and all of that.
Oh, wow.
But I had done that the summer before. So now
Right.
this summer, I get a little bit of a promotion. I'm going to be the MC all by myself up at a dude ranch up in Peekskill. So I had to go. And Al never forgot that. I'll tell you why. Not because I left the show, because I was friends with him, and we used to run into each other a lot in the city and all of that. But when we did Serpico, now this is years later, 1970, my God, 72, 70,
74?
No,
72?
sorry, 73.
Okay.
Because the hearings were going on for Watergate during that summer. When we did it, I had the role to play his brother, and it was good because we were friends and all of that. But then after filming for a while, he called me back, and I went into his dressing wagon, the honey wagon. We were on location. It was always on location in that movie. And he said to me, I need something flavorful for the movie. I said, "Well, we got the family scene." He said, "No, we're going to cut the family scene. It's not working." We had a big family scene. Now, I was supposed to play his older brother in the movie, see? And I'm dissatisfied with him because he never come. Oh, Jesus, why didn't you tell me to turn it off?
Because it don't matter, John. It might be your next gig with Pacino. We want to see it live. It's
Anyway,
Al calling. Why you talking about me, John?
Yeah, I know. Every time I ran into him, we'd have wonderful conversations. We remained friends. But anyway, he called me back and he said, I know you got that improvisational quality. Because, see, he knew that I was a comic.
Right.
He said, I want a scene with some warmth. I want us to do some. So we began to improvise, and within a few days, we improvised the scene that's now in the movie. And the original family scene was thrown out. And the scene is in the shoe shop. His father was a shoe repairman, and I was the son, and Al was the son of a shoe repairman.
Right.
That is, Frank Serpico was the son of an Italian man.
Right.
So we improvised the scene where Frank Serpico, comes up to the old neighborhood, to the shoe shop, to pick up his shoes and to visit, And we have that scene. I have to tell you something. That scene, and I wrote it with him.
Right.
And we improvised it. The whole thing is improvised. And that scene has been used in documentaries whenever they do about Serpico. They use that scene. They did a documentary, Robert Evans.
Right.
He was the producer. They did a documentary about his life, and they used a bit of that scene as representative of Serpico. It really is a lovely scene. People who see it just say, "Oh my God, Pasquale, the shoe man," because that was my name.
Right.
Thing. And he comes, pick up his shoes, and basically I'm asking him,
He don't come around.
"You don't come around." That's right, you know it, Tony. Yeah, you don't come around.
That's why Tony's here.
We
You
were
don't
waiting
think he's
for
here
you.
for
No,
eye candy.
I say to him, Mary Ann was
Yeah,
there, and Pacino says,
Yeah, he ends it with and no Marianne.
"No, man," with both of us, yeah.
Yeah.
But he comes up to me, says, "Come here. I want to tell you something. Mary Ann's father is a cop. My
Yeah,
brother's a cop. Sometimes I think Mary Ann is a cop."
Yeah.
So he doesn't want to see her. And we laugh and all of that, and he walks out. I say, "Hey, what about Sunday? You coming over?" "Yeah, but no Mary Ann."
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, no, it is. It's a beautiful scene.
Well, we wrote it. And that was nice. And I was very friendly with Al. I went to
And getting to work with Lamette.
That time, yeah. Sidney Lumet was the director. He worked, of course, in the Yiddish theater. He goes all the way back. He was a young man. But I knew a lot about the Yiddish theater because I was friends with Luther Adler.
Right.
That's what brought this conversation
Right.
between you and me together.
Right. But that's what brought you here. I mean, the Pacino stuff too, but
Well, I
Luther
heard-
Adler.
Yeah, well, you wanted to hear that. So that's how I met Al, and we remained friends. We're still friends, you know.
Did you know Charlie too, Lawton?
His coach.
Pacino was good friends with Charlie, and
Oh, Charlie. Yeah,
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 yeah.
yeah. No,
And
no.
Penny Allen.
I never met that, and I never met his daughters either. Although a friend of mine here in Los Angeles had 2 children the same age as Al's children, and this friend would do dates. The children would do play dates with Al's children, and this friend was a very good friend of mine. He's a lawyer, and he adopted 2 girls, and they would go over there and play with Al's children. So when this friend told me that he was going to Al's house, I said, well, give him my regards, tell him.
yeah.
And he did. And Pacino remembered the name of the play. He remembered the scene that we did. He remembered the whole thing, you know. And last time I saw Al, when I left the note at the backstage and I went backstage, he said to whoever was listening, this is the oldest guy who knows me in show business.
Wow.
Which is pretty true. Pretty true, because I tell you, that day he showed up, I remember a little incident when we were rehearsing, okay, with Alec Rubin. It was a Monday night, and we're lying on the floor doing all of these crazy rehearsals. And I turned to Al and I said, Jesus, it's Monday night, I'm going to miss the Academy Awards. And he said, that's all bullshit. You watch that stuff? So now I told Al that he said that after he won his award. And he was doing that Eugene O'Neill thing,
Huey?
Huey, the one-person show, yeah. And I went to see him, and backstage I told him, I said, you finally won your award. Yeah, he did. I said, you know, you said it was all bullshit. And he remembered, and he laughed, and we laughed together. But, you know, it was, I don't know, in those days, being an actor in New York, it was very personal. The whole thing was very personal. One time, around this time, I used to make rounds. You know what that is.
Sure.
Making rounds.
Yeah.
I mean, it's impossible today.
Right. Right.
I had my attaché case with my pictures, my resumes.
You're trying to get a gig, man.
I wore a suit, and I was going into the Brill building, for example, and I'd knock on doors and agents. Oh, you would like me to leave a picture? Sure. And I throw the picture on the pile of 400 other pictures that were there, you know, and resumes. So I was doing that, and I was walking on 57th Street, and there's a Horn and Hardart. Now, you really got to be old to know the automat.
Right.
You
I
must
mean,
have
I know
seen
what
it
an
in the
automat
movies.
is, but I don't know.
You must have
yeah.
seen it in the movies.
Well, no, I know what an automat. We
you
we
drop
had
a
them
quarter
here,
in
but
and
yeah.
a little egg salad sandwich,
Right.
the door opens up.
Yeah.
I went in there, and Al used to hang out in places like that. This is shortly after the play, like a couple of years. He had done off-Broadway stuff. He was getting to be pretty well known.
He had done The Indian Wants the Bronx around
Yeah,
then,
right after. Because that Horowitz was his name, the
Right,
writer.
yeah.
Israel.
He
Horowitz.
came up to Alec Rubin's studio and saw that play. He was really good in that play, Why Is a Crooked Letter? And I've seen all of the plays that he did, especially when he was in New York. Anyway,
Me too.
you did too.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, he was in the Horn and Hardart, and I walk in with my attaché case and my suit, and he says, what are you doing? You're dressed. What's going on? I said, I'm making rounds. You're making what? I'm making rounds. You know, I go around, I knock on the doors, and he said, I could never do that. I loved that he said that, you know, because I was also in a Broadway show years later, and I was doing very well as an actor, and I got fired. I got fired a lot from a lot of places. I'm proud of that. And I'll tell you what Luther Adler said about my being fired. He said, only great talent gets fired. So I ran into him one time in the park, Al, and I told him about that. And he said, don't worry about it. You know, don't just F it, you know, just don't worry about it. And I thought that was good, that, you know, he felt that way.
You'd see in his plays, he'd have a lot of people he'd worked with were constantly in the plays.
In the
Penny Allen worked with him a lot.
Oh, yeah. You mean in
Sully
the,
Boya
in,
worked
in the
with him a lot.
theater?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. The Jack, what's his name? Jack, the Irish guy.
Yeah, yeah.
It was in the...
And also the guy who raped him in Scarecrow. I saw him. He was
Lynch.
In, yeah, right.
Yeah.
Richard Lynch.
Richard Lynch.
Richard Lynch. Oh,
Yeah,
yeah, Richard
yeah.
Lynch. Right, right.
First thing I saw him was the basic training of Pavlo Hummel.
Oh, yeah, that was downtown at the
Yeah.
Public Theater.
Yeah,
Yes, I remember that.
yeah.
I saw Richard Lynch beat up a phone in the Casa Vega bathroom one night.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I
was
was telling
cocaine
you about when
involved.
you were an actor in New York City in those days. Now, this is in the 60s, the late 60s, early 70s.
Yeah.
You walked the streets a lot. We really did. In fact, Actors Equity had a fund, the shoe fund. Do you know about the shoe fund?
No.
Yeah.
You'd go up to Actors Equity office, and they'd give you $25 to buy a pair of shoes because we walked so much
Wow.
making rounds. You remember that?
Yeah, I know. I don't remember it, but I know of it.
I did
yeah.
it here in Hollywood.
Yeah. Now, did you ever go to Harold Clurman's office?
I never went to his office, no, but I went to his memorial, which was held in a theater. And that's where I sat next to Arthur Miller. And I wanted so much to tell Arthur Miller about the letter that he had written to me. And when it was over, we went out onto the sidewalk, and we were going to go for lunch, or coffee or something, brunch, you know. It was the early morning. And I was with Arthur Miller, and I wanted so much to go for coffee with him, you know. But his wife said, no, we'll just go home. And he left. So I never had a chance to tell him.
Did you work with him?
No, I didn't work with him. That's the reason I wrote him. I auditioned for a play that he wrote about Adam and Eve. I forgot the name of the play, honest and truly. But I auditioned for it. And when I showed up for the audition, prepared, because I had done the preliminary for the agent and all of that, and this was going to be a Broadway show, and I showed up, they turned me away because, oh no, we've changed the concept or something. So, and I didn't even get a chance to audition. And I was so angry. I didn't even get a chance to audition. And when they told me, I wrote him a letter.
Right.
And he wrote you back?
What balls.
Yeah.
I wrote him a letter in 1972, and son of a gun, about 5 months later, he wrote me back. Arthur Miller wrote back.
What does it say? Let's read it. It's Arthur Miller, for Christ's sake.
It's handwritten. Dear Mr. Medici, I have no secretary, so my mail must often wait. This is November of 72. I am sorry if you were unfairly treated in your attempt to read from my play. Correctly or not, I suppose the person you talked to in your interview thought you weren't right for a role. The problem is simple, that we have no theater, and he underlined that. We have no theater, but only shows. So it comes down to hit or miss success to read certain actors and not others. Quite a limited amount of time available. This is no consolation, but merely the fact. I hope to find some more just method of seeing people the next time. Sincerely yours, Arthur Miller.
That's really cool.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's amazing.
I have had such respect for that man. Well, I love his writing.
Yeah, yeah.
And in acting classes, I've done a lot of his scenes from his plays. But I was very proud of that because I got it just around the same, a little before I got the letter from Luther Adler.
I bet that's worth some money.
And,
Oh, yeah.
well, maybe they are, you know. And then later I started thinking, you know, why didn't I write to a lot of people that I came across and
Right.
you know, had them
Right.
write back to me? I could have a
Right.
big collection of letters, but, you know, it's one of those I coulda, I woulda, I shoulda. You know.
You know, there's going to be different people that watch this, and Arthur Miller obviously wrote Death of a Salesman, All My Sons, you know, classic, iconic.
The Price. I like The Price.
Okay.
You know, the old Jewish man
Yeah,
and the two brothers, about the two brothers.
sure. It's iconic. The plays, Arthur Miller's iconic. And now people are probably too young to know that his daughter, Rebecca, is married to Daniel Day-Lewis. You've been watching Brian Lally, Hollywood Native. Now I want to talk to you about something I'm really passionate about, and that's teaching acting. So I co-founded LOLAS Acting School with my son, Kyle Lally, Lally Acting School. I've been acting for a long time now. I have 100-plus credits on IMDb, hundreds of plays I've been involved with over the years, and I just want to share that experience with you.
What we do differently here at LOLAS is we give you practical advice that you can use on a movie set, on a play, an audition, anywhere. We give you the foundation to build yourself as a great actor.
If you come to us, you don't know anything, we can teach you everything you need to know to be comfortable on a set and to excel. Don't just listen to me. Look at what our students are doing. Daryl Wesley, who is writing on 2 hit shows, The Game and The Upshaws, and Ben Barrett, who's a series regular on The Politician. Megan Davis, who is playing Amber Heard in the Johnny Depp Amber Heard story. Come check us out. We're at the Historic Art Theater in the NoHo Arts District. You ever want to try plant-based eating?
I have.
What, you're a little confused, overwhelmed? You don't know how to get started?
Definitely.
Well, there's a simple answer to that. Go to Debbie Chew's Chew On Vegan YouTube channel. Debbie Chew is a plant-based RN. I've known Debbie for over 38 years, and she's very good at what she does. You go to the channel, and there's over 300 recipes. They're simple, easy to make, and they're delicious. If you want to try it, you just might get healthy. Give it a shot. Chew On Vegan.
Oh, yes.
And they have children, so maybe we try to bring that relevance.
I think she wrote a book about him, didn't she? I believe.
They might know the about him in Maryland, too.
Yeah.
Being married to Marilyn Monroe.
What's the book that View from the Bridge was written after? I read his book, and I can't think of it.
Was it a Schulman book?
I had heard that during that time he actually lived in Brooklyn for a while. He lived in Greenpoint,
Right.
under the bridge,
Right.
near the Brooklyn Bridge. There was a big area of docks. There were docks in Brooklyn. And he observed the Italian.
You're on my podcast right now. We're talking about Arthur Miller.
Oh, then call me later.
What's his autobiography, The
Time
View from the
Bends.
Bridge? Huh?
Oh, no. His
It's what?
Time Bends is his auto.
Time Bends.
That's his autobiography.
What's
Yeah.
it called?
Time
Yeah.
Bends.
Oh,
Yeah.
Time Bends. Yeah.
See, you called it at the right time, Thor.
Right, Time Bends.
Thor Gold on the phone, ladies and gentlemen. All right.
Okay.
I will talk to you later, man.
Definitely.
Thanks for the help.
Oh, you're welcome. Bye-bye.
Yeah, I was going to say, being an actor in New York at that time, it was very, very personal. You didn't send auditions in, by video. You didn't do things in your living room. You did them in front of people.
Right.
And I got very used to meeting directors, improvising with directors, little scenes and things. I got very used to that. And I no longer work, but the point is that I know that here now in Los Angeles, you don't meet anybody. You send everything in. And I'm not too good with technology.
I see that with a lot of my friends around my age. It's like, but it's the way it is, right? Times change, and if you look at the benefits, driving all over the place, you don't have to look for parking, you don't have that. It can be more convenient, I guess. I mean, I prefer to be in the office myself, too.
Well, it's just good
but it is what it is.
It's just good to meet a person.
Yeah.
Well, it is, and you have that energy, the adrenaline of going in
Yeah,
there for the
yeah.
first time.
Yeah.
But my son helps me with most of my auditions, so I get to hang out with my kid. He's a great director, and I kind of like being able to do it several times, and send in the one you like,
Yeah.
because you were talking about being a stand-up comic and great
Yes.
in the car. So there's always the 3 auditions we talk about:
Right.
the one in the car, the one in the room, and the one on the way home is always
Way
the
home.
best.
Oh, yes, that's
Yeah.
the worst one.
So, now, did you train at the Actor Studio?
Oh, that's the thing. So when
Yeah.
I was doing the play, and my wife had told me, you got to study acting, I did that play with Al, the first play, all I did was take these exercise classes with Alec Rubin. He called it body work. He called it body awareness. That was mostly what the acting was. So I asked Pacino at that time. I knew he was living with Lee Strasberg. I just knew that's where he lived, literally. I said, I really want to, and so on. He said, well, okay. He said, I'll tell him, but just write a letter. And he gave me the address. It was on Central Park West. Just write a letter saying who you are and what you want to do, and put a phone number, and you'll get a call back. And son of a gun, I wrote the letter. It was like to a secretary at Lee Strasberg's home, I guess, and Central Park West. And I got the call back saying classes start whenever it was, September. I think it was that September. Yeah, exactly. That September of '66. Classes start. Now listen, the classes with Lee were $120
Wow.
for 3 months. September, October, November. Now for this $120, my class was Tuesday, Thursday. But there was another class Monday, Wednesday. Now, you could sit in on the Monday, Wednesday, but you couldn't talk and you couldn't say
Right.
anything. But your class, Tuesday, Thursday, you were a part of, right? But you could sit in on the other. So I could go to Lee's class 4 days a week if I wanted to. And many times I did, because other friends had other time. And for the class, one day was the scene class and another day was the exercise class. All right? He was doing the exercises basically that they learned with the group theater way back there in the 1930s. And later, when I met Luther Adler, who was a member of the group theater, he didn't like Lee Strasberg very much. And he said, that pisher, he called him a pisher. He used to tell me stories about the group theater, but that's another issue. The point is that I studied with Lee, and I really, really liked studying with him. And I really liked his classes. And I really was challenged very much, because one of the exercises was to simply stand in front of the class. Just stand there. And he would note, your eye is flashing, your eye is blinking a lot. Why is that blinking? Why is your left hand making that movement? Why are you shifting your weight? And then you had to sing a song. But you didn't sing the song, you did it note at a time, like Happy Birthday would be ha, and you kept it as long as you could, be, and while you did it, your body, you had to be totally aware of everything going on in your body. That was a very famous exercise that we did, and boy, you'd see people collapse in front of you because they'd start crying. They never were so challenged in their lives. Louder, I want you louder, I can't hear you, more, there was that. There was, why are you moving? Why are you doing that? Why are that? What are you thinking right now? And you would have to answer, and you'd have to just stand in front. It was like being at a firing squad, and you would just right there in front. I loved that exercise.
Keitel demonstrates it in Inside the Actor Studio.
That what?
Inside the Actor Studio, the one with Harvey Keitel.
Oh, yeah.
He demonstrates it.
Oh, he demonstrated it.
Yeah,
Yeah. That's great.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what it was. And then there were other exercises too, the sense memory exercises, which you did privately in a chair, and he would walk around. And then there were also just the relaxation exercises. I was good at that because of Alec Rubin. And you sit in a chair, and you let your whole body go, and he'd walk around and he'd pick up your arm. And of course, the first time, you stiff him because you want to pick up the arm for him. And he'd make sure that you knew that your body was your instrument, and that if you start knocking your knees together when you're singing, you have to be aware of it, and that sort of thing. So they were wonderful, and I loved it. I was in the class for 3 years, 66 to 67, 67 to 68, 68 to 69, and a little bit of 70 as well. I was into my 4th year. I had a lot of friends in the class, that I made. Bette Midler was my scene partner for the scene that she did, the first scene that we did. We did it from Born Yesterday. I played the newspaper reporter, and she was that character.
Judy
and
Holliday.
the first time that they meet, and she says, "So do you want to fool around?" Or she was wonderful to work with.
I bet she was great. I mean, Judy Holliday is so iconic. That might be a word of the day, and so smart in real life. But Bette Midler, I bet, had her own approach. I bet that was, she got so much energy,
It was the first scene that she ever did, and as far as I know, the only scene, because after her 12 weeks, she wouldn't renew.
Because you asked her, right?
I asked her point blank. I was up to her apartment and everything. We were rehearsing. Funny thing we took the bus down together, and there was a shop selling old clothing. Now, this is back in 1970, selling old clothing. And she was so fascinated with that shop and the old clothing. She loved, retro stuff. But I asked her, why? And she said, I guess I don't really need this SHIT. I don't know if I can curse here.
Yeah, you can say whatever you want.
I did already.
Yeah.
I don't need that shit. And that was her answer. And I went to see her later perform a couple of years later when I was teaching acting in Chicago. And she was performing in Chicago with her group. And she was developing this character at the time. She was developing it, the divine Miss M.
Yeah.
And it was great to see her live.
Well, she's a great actor. A great
She is.
singer.
She was terrific, yeah.
She was brilliant in The Rose.
I was an extra
In The Rose?
in the crowds, the concert scene. Yeah.
No, she was great. Well, she is great.
Yeah. So
long years before I wanted to be an actor. We just went down and announced it on the radio.
It's funny how we used to call it extras, right?
Right.
They're now background
Right.
people.
Right.
But when I got my Screen Actors Guild card and my Actors Equity card at the same time, I got them at the same time. You get one, you could run over to the other office and get the other one. If you got a contract, I got a contract in Actors Equity, and I ran over to SAG and I got that card. I started doing extra work in New York City. And I did a lot of movies, Jane Fonda. I did that police movie that she did that she won an Academy Award for. I did Clute. Yeah, I worked on that a couple of days. I did a lot of extra work.
It's funny because nowadays, and for years it's been so looked down upon, but Kevin Bacon was being interviewed and he was talking about, we got extra work. We could be on the set. We could watch how things go.
That's,
it was like,
not only that, but if you looked half intelligent and you were breathing, you'd stand out. And I got a lot of special business. They call it special business, You'd sit at the bar with the star and you'd have to pass a drink down or something. I did that in some gangster movie. I was at the bar with somebody and I passed the drink down and things like that. I did a lot of little extra things. You'd stand at the deli counter and you were the guy who got the sandwich before the star did, and that was considered special business.
Right. What about, was there a lot of famous people became famous that you studied with in those years? People come in and out of class?
I say Bette
Right.
Midler. There were, and his name went out of my head, but he's very famous. He played Mickey Spillane in a TV show.
Stacy Keach?
Stacy Keach, of course. I was a spear carrier for Stacy Keach at the Actors Studio.
Right.
He was doing something from Shakespeare. So what happened to me was after I was studying with Lee for a while, I had the temerity to ask him, could I be an observer at the studio? And he said, sure, just come and see so-and-so and he'll tell you. And I did work at the studio in other people's things,
Right.
Stacy Keach did Richard III scene where he stops the coffin. So I was there. And later when I did the TV show, I had a little scene with him and he was looking at me funny and I said, yeah, you know me. I was at the Actors Studio. Oh my gosh, and it was really nice to see him. So he was one. And there were a lot of actresses. Mimi Cousins, who just passed away recently. She was one of my classmates at the studio. People would come and go, and it is a long time ago, so it's really a little hard to remember.
Did you end up
as much as I do remember?
Did you end up becoming a member of the studio?
I only auditioned once. Was right after Serpico. No, you had to audition a lot of times, you know, and I just didn't.
You did it once and that was it?
I did it once, yeah, for myself, and then they told me, well, why don't you assist other people so we can see you more often? So I did assist a couple of others. I was in their scenes, but then my interest waned, and I thought, you know, I'll move on. I don't really need this.
Do you know what scene you auditioned?
Yeah, one of those comedy shows that was very popular in the 60s about the clown.
Herb Gardner?
Yeah, Herb Gardner.
1,000 Clowns?
Was it called 1,000 Clowns?
1,000
Well, yeah.
Clowns, yeah.
Well, there was a real clown in it.
I don't know, but I know there's
He
a play,
played a clown
1,000
on
Clowns.
TV.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He played a
And
clown
Herb
on TV. Jeez, in the show. He played
Didn't
a clown.
Ron Howard play the kid in that? Who played the kid in that? Somebody.
I don't know.
I did a scene from that show. It was a
Yeah.
60s, a real 60s play, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Bubbles was his name, the clown.
Yeah.
It's been
Did
a
you ever
long
work
time.
on, you'd be good in, did you ever work in Love? L-U-V? Did you ever do a scene
Oh,
from that?
I did that play.
Did you? Yeah,
I did
yeah,
it here
I'm saying
in
you- yeah,
Los
you'd be good in
Angeles.
that,
Yeah,
yeah.
I did that play. I loved it. I loved everything that Alan Arkin did, and what's his name, and his wife. You know,
Yeah, yeah.
I'm looking to
Elaine
you
May? Who
to
are we
help me.
talking about?
You know, no, not Elaine May. not
Joseph
Elaine May.
Bologna? Who he?
Oh, well, I worked with Joe Bologna. I was in his show.
You
That's
were,
how I
wait
got-
a minute. You were in one of my all-time favorite movies, right? My favorite year?
Oh, definitely, yes. I did my scene with Mr. Richard.
Peter O'Toole.
Peter O'Toole. Yeah, Peter O'Toole.
Oh, my God.
And
What scene were you in? I love
Richard
that film, too.
Benjamin. See, Richard Benjamin directed.
Right.
Lainey Kazan was in it.
Yeah, she was great.
And Laney
Yeah,
Kazan.
great.
Yeah, it's a wonderful movie.
Yeah, it's great.
What-
And what Richard Benjamin did, I was, it was a Jewish neighborhood, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he goes, she's wearing a wedding gown.
Right, he goes to dinner at the house.
But I'm the
Right.
super,
Yeah.
you know.
Okay.
Oh.
My name was, I don't know, Salvatore.
Oh, yeah, but you, yeah.
Salvatore.
Okay.
I'm the super.
Yeah.
Because Rich O'Toole says to me, how did you get here? And I said, I'm the super.
Yeah. Yeah.
You're the best.
Right. That's,
That's a great film.
But he put a kid on my shoulder, Richard Benjamin. I met him later and I said, why did you put that kid on my shoulder? Because
because it was funny.
it was funny. I'm carrying a kid, you know, and have a word with Peter O'Toole.
Yeah, but it's the family
I know.
aspect.
No, of course.
No, I'm not correcting you. I'm doing a little script analysis. I'm enjoying it. I'm like, yeah, it's a family, and they got the family in there. Here comes a guy. It's
The
all
super
about
carrying a kid, you
Yeah.
know, to see the movie star, you know.
Yeah.
And it was wonderful. Richard Benjamin was very good. He was very nice to me. And you know, it's a funny story about Richard Benjamin because I used to run into him and his wife on the bus.
Paul Apprentice, wasn't it?
Paul Apprentice, yeah.
That's what I was like.
And
Look, I spent a whole show trying to remember terms of endearment. So if you're forgetting anything,
no, of course, I
you
do
know,
forget
Jack
things.
Carpenter was here, and I was
Oh,
trying.
yes.
Yeah.
Oh, right.
So
I ran into on the number 10 bus. That's the bus that goes up 8th Avenue to the west side. So west side bus, number 10. And then at 42nd Street, it turns and goes down 42nd Street to the United Nations. So if you lived on the upper west side, you took the number 10 bus. Stops on Columbus Avenue, one way going down. So you take the number 10 bus, you go along 8th Avenue, and those are the Broadway.
Yeah.
You can, if you're working in a Broadway theater or something. So all the actors were on that bus all the time. I ran into Sidney Lumet. I ran into Elia Kazan. I ran into Richard Benjamin and Paul Apprentice. Alan Arkin. I ran into Alan Arkin. That's who I meant.
Yeah.
Playing in Love. I just loved Alan Arkin. I still do.
yeah,
Freebie
was-
Levine.
yeah.
And when I got to know Luther Adler, and he had been in so many Broadway shows, and he had so many stories to tell, you know, about the group theater and about Harold Kluwerman, and he didn't talk about his sister, you know, Stella Adler. They were on the outs. Well, the Adler family, I shouldn't talk about them, but
It's okay.
they
they're
had
dead.
family problems, you know. All families do. And so Luther was very close to a different sister.
The story I read, which I find fascinating, I talk about it when I teach all the time, is that at one time, I guess when everybody was younger, and the father, Jacob Adler, the legendary, the iconic Jacob Adler, was there. They would come home and they'd gather for dinner at the table, and they would tell stories and sometimes act them out. And I just thought, as someone who was never encouraged to do anything in my life, besides whatever, I had no encouragement from the family. Except to encourage not to do what I wanted to do. To hear that these artists would get together, I saw a guy on the street, and he walked like this, and he said, and I just thought it was fascinating, and at that time, so there was a time in their lives, but yeah, I know it happens, I don't talk to my brother.
Luther used to talk about his father a great deal, and also his mother. His mother was an actress too.
Right.
And Luther was on the stage when he was 5 years old. So that's why when he had to take orders from Lee Strasberg or Harold Clurman during that period in the 30s, the group theater, he would get offended, He would get offended. Every time I went to visit him, he'd say, okay, you're visiting, it's great, have fun. We're going to have fun this weekend, but I don't want to hear anything about the Actors Studio. I don't want to tell any stories. Just forget about it, okay? And then he'd say, I'll make you a martini now that's going to knock you on your ass. And then he'd make the martini. And he said, and my favorite sandwich, which was rye bread, sardines on onions with lettuce and tomato on rye bread.
That's a Depression-era sandwich.
I know. So then...
My mother liked a sardine sandwich.
No, go say it.
South Bronx in the Depression, my mom, so...
Oh, yeah, the same thing, the South
Yeah.
Bronx.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's where Cardinal Hayes was. It was in the South Bronx.
Yeah.
Yeah, and of course I grew up in East Harlem, which in itself
Right.
is already... George Carlin, if I'm not mistaken, actually went to Cardinal Hayes High School.
Well, that might be it. I know it's a famous name. I know there's people that have come out of there. You know what I mean?
Burt Lancaster.
Yeah.
When I met Burt Lancaster in Hollywood here, and I met him because I worked in a garage parking cars in Century City. The address was 1999 Century City. It was right near Century City, and it was a big office building, and the garage was down.
Right.
Mr. Lancaster was in that building, and he'd have his managers would come. I got to know his manager. He was like an Italian guy, from the neighborhood. And I always knew that Burt Lancaster was born in East Harlem. And he's Italian, you know that. But he's only Italian on one side.
Right.
On his mother's side.
I did not know
I didn't know that either.
You didn't know he was an Italian?
No.
Tony's only Italian on his
Well, he had
mother's
a-
side, so there you go.
Yeah.
Well,
He could have been
Tony, yeah.
Burt Lancaster.
There you go.
Like you. He was
Yeah.
an Irish. And he was born in East Harlem, and he used to go to the Boys Club, which was on 111th Street, where the gas tanks were. There were big gas tanks on First Avenue, and there was a Boys Club. Now, I never went to the Boys Club. I went a couple of times, but I was on 114th Street, and we had a YMCA in a church basement. So I used to go to the YMCA. I never went to I did go to the Boys Club a few times, but I wasn't a regular there. Also, we had the LaGuardia House on 116th Street. Fiorello LaGuardia was the congressman from East Harlem.
Right.
And when he went on to become the mayor, our next congressman was Vito Marcantonio, who was the only up-front communist ever elected to Congress. Vito Marcantonio. American Labor Party.
Wow.
I used to attend his rallies. He'd always have rallies. Me and Marco Vassi, we would go to the rallies all the time. Vito Marcantonio, he was a wonderful man. He was a very, very good man and everything. He got a bad rap
As a communist.
because he was.
It
And
can
he ran
happen.
for mayor. Yeah, he ran for mayor. But he was a firebrand, and he worked hard for the people of East Harlem. I grew up at the time, Tony. I think you would appreciate this, when Italians. This is pre-Godfather, if you know what I mean.
Right.
It wasn't accepted, honest and truly. It wasn't accepted. It was kind of frowned upon. A lot of people changed their names. And, I'm not the only one. Tony Bennett is not Bennett.
No.
It's Di Benedetto.
Right.
And on and on. There were a lot of others in Hollywood who had changed their names. Sinatra didn't. There was a big riot in 1946 or 7 in the public high school, Benjamin Franklin. It was black and white riot. But the black kids and the white kids, they really did get along very well in that school, because I looked it up. I looked up the whole history of that Benjamin Franklin High School on Pleasant Avenue. And it's right around the corner from where I live. I looked up the whole history. It was divided. It was like 38% Italian, 15% Irish, 10% black, added up or something.
Jewish.
Another 15
Well,
Jewish. Yeah, absolutely. It was a very mixed school. And they got along really well. They had basketball team and everything. They got along very well. But there was some argument, you know, that spilled out into the street. And of course, the racial matters were always on the surface when I grew up, because we were in Harlem, you know. I used to go to 125th Street all the time and 7th Avenue. I knew where the Apollo Theater was.
Apollo
That's where all the
Theater, yeah.
clothing stores were.
Okay.
And there was always this thing, you know, right on the surface about blacks because of Harlem. But, yeah, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, later in your acting career, did you hang out at Columbus? Because my cousin used to go to Columbus all the time. Bruce.
You're talking about the high school?
No, Columbus, the bar restaurant. Bruce Willis was a bartender there.
Oh, no. I forget the name of it now again, but I did the one in Lincoln Square. Joe Allen.
Joe Allen's, yeah.
Okay. And then there was another one also around 63rd Street or something up on the west side.
Yeah, no. Every time I go to New York, I stop at Joe Allen's.
Yeah, it's still there.
Yeah, it's still there.
A lot of friends of mine were bartenders there and waiters there.
Yeah, you had to work with my cousin too, Danny Aiello.
Oh, sure.
Did you work with him?
No, I've met him.
Yeah.
I never worked
Because Danny
with him.
would go to Columbus and get a lot of jobs there. I mean,
Yeah.
it would just be people. Well, he bounced at the Improv too.
Right.
So he met Woody Allen and worked with Woody Allen.
Well, I was good friends with Carmine Caridi.
Okay.
Who was Danny Aiello's best friend, best enemy.
Yeah.
If you know what I mean.
Yeah. No, I know there were a lot of those.
One time Carmine Caridi, I used to have lunch with him every Monday. One time somebody said, "Oh, I got a lot of luck. I got a lot of good luck. I had good luck, you know."
Yeah.
And he said, "No, you didn't have good luck. Danny Aiello had good luck.
Yeah.
You didn't have good luck." And he didn't like him.
No, I know.
And he worked with Robert De Niro. He didn't like Robert De Niro either. He didn't like him. He thought he was a terrible actor. I'm serious. And he was in The Godfather, a couple, you know, both of them. And it's peculiar, you know, the way actors are, right?
I would find that with a lot of my Italian actor friends. They wouldn't want to help you out.
I was just about to say that.
They didn't want to help you out. It's like, you know, if I knew of an audition, I called my friend Jimmy DiStefano and I'd say, "Jimmy, you got to go on this audition."
Yeah.
If I wasn't going to get it, I'd like to see my friend get it. But not everybody thinks that way.
No.
And I found it with a lot of my Italian friends.
Yeah, I knew that. See, I joined this group in New York City, this acting group that were going to do Italian plays, Pirandello. We were going to do Italian plays. So we had meetings. Every time we had a meeting, we had a fight, an argument. Pirandello, what are we doing, Pirandello? Then one guy said, "Shakespeare, you know this thing about Shakespeare, everything about Shakespeare. I go to audition for Shakespeare. They practically threw me out of the place. And it's for Julius Caesar. They're all Italians, right? And Julius Caesar, they're Italians, right? And they told me, no, I'm not right for the part. I could do Shakespeare." And you'd hear them argue like that all the time.
Yeah. Well, Hatful of Rain was you know,
Okay.
performed at that level.
I know that.
Right?
I know that because
Yeah.
I met the writer. What's his name?
What's his name?
Gazzo, were you in the studio when they were developing it?
Ben Gazzo. Yeah.
Michael.
Michael
Gazzo.
Gazzo. Yeah, no.
Yeah.
See, Richard Lepore was an actor, and he was in that show. And Richard Lepore became a Hollywood actor. L-A-P-O, I think it's R-E, Richard Lepore. He was a good friend of Frank Sinatra's. In fact, he was in The Manchurian Candidate. He was one of the soldiers. And he was an Italian guy from 116th Street. And the reason I met him is because I used to be a tutor. When I had many jobs when I came to California.
We all have.
I used to be a tutor, and I got to tutor his son. And so I met Richard Lepore, and he was from 116th Street. You know, there were a lot of people from East Harlem.
Well, you must have had shell shock when you came from New York, where it was more about the work and more about talent. And then
Yes.
you come to LA, and it's all about connections and who you know.
Well, not only that, but it's all about type.
Yeah.
Incredibly type,
Yeah.
you know. You're a bright new face because you fill that type.
Right.
And then after they use you for a while, they forget about you. You can't do anything else.
Why'd you come here? You thought there was more opportunity?
Well, 116th, that's a subway stop.
Wow.
Yeah, sure.
I've
Lexington
been to Harlem.
Avenue.
I've been to Harlem.
You took a picture of it.
Well, yeah, you know.
Well, that's nice.
I was up in Harlem. I was like, I might die, so you know, let me take a picture of the subway
where-
stop here.
Where I was.
I was on my way to meet a buddy. Yeah, we went to the Apollo. Yeah.
Why did I come to California?
Yeah. And when
Well,
was it?
after being fired from Lenny, okay?
Oh, you were in Lenny, the movie,
Not the movie, the play.
the play?
Yeah. I had to look it up this morning because
And were you Lenny?
I was his understudy. Cliff Gorman.
Okay.
I was good friends with Cliff Gorman. Tom O'Horgan was the great director. He was director of Hair, and then he did a lot of other shows.
Wasn't he the creative Hair too? The creator?
He was the director of Hair when
Right.
it was off Broadway. Then it got to be on Broadway.
Right. Well, wasn't he one of the stars too, or he was?
No,
that
no,
was
no,
different.
he was just
okay,
a
'cause-
director.
Okay.
Tom O'Horgan.
Okay.
And he was a real hippie, you know. I'm not a hippie type, but Lenny was a type like I am.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, when I met Lenny's mother, she looked at my face. She said, Jesus, you look just like him. Because I had bushy hair, you know, and he had a real Italian Jewish face, you know. No, I was in Lenny. I made it, and I was in it, and I was the understudy for Lenny, and every Wednesday and Saturday I would rehearse, you know. And I did, how many weeks did I do? A lot of weeks in Lenny. With a part, I had a part in Lenny. I played one of his best friends from childhood, his childhood friends, and I grew up with him, like one of the guys, you know.
Right.
And there were two of us. But Tom O'Horgan got a bee in his bonnet. He fired a few people who started out in the show.
Right.
I wasn't the only one. As we went on, I don't know, suddenly, creatively, you weren't right, even though he hired you. So he came to me one day, and he liked me a lot. He said, I'm sorry, you're the understudy, and I don't know, I don't think you're rabbinical enough. That's what he said to me, his exact words. I don't think you're rabbinical enough. Now, was Lenny rabbinical? I guess so. I guess he was, if you can see it that way. But nobody ever told me you're not Jewish enough. Nobody ever told me that. Anyway, I had a big resentment toward him for a long, long time. And I was in such a depression after that. You know, when you're in a Broadway show, and it was my second Broadway show,
What was your first?
Lovers and Other Strangers.
Oh, shit. Which scene?
The first scene with Zora Lampert.
But it's
And
the
I
one where
auditioned for that, you know,
about
Charles-
making love?
Yeah,
Yeah,
where,
yeah,
where
yeah.
you were in
Yeah,
bed
yeah.
together?
No, we didn't never get
Wait.
into bed together. We did, but you didn't see it. The in bed was the husband and wife.
Right, okay.
And that was
All right.
Renee and Joe Bologna.
Right. Okay.
They were wonderful people in that
Right.
show.
Yeah.
Zora Lampert. Charles Grodin was the director.
Oh, God.
And I didn't even have my equity card. But I waited all day long. And then when I went in as Johnny Armin. I was really like brash.
Yeah, yeah.
And why are you guys keeping me waiting? I could have gone home. I could have had dinner. I could have come back. I mean, Jesus Christ, I waited so long just to come in here and read for you guys. I don't give a shit. Here's my thing, you know. And but I did one of those numbers.
Right.
I did the Johnny Armin, you
Yeah,
know,
yeah, yeah.
Right.
brash guy number. I don't know. Charles Grodin loved me. And then Renee Taylor, she read with me. And then we went on stage. That was the interview. She said, we're going to get you to go on stage. And you know what I said? I said, yeah, they all say that. But son of a gun, after a couple of months, she called me, and I went on stage. And I have to tell you, she studied with Lee as well, by
Right.
the way. I got on stage with Renee Taylor, and never, and I still can remember, have I met somebody on stage as an actor who was so with me. I mean, it was like Al Pacino. It was that kind of thing. And it was an audition. So with me. It was incredible. she was wonderful. And she improvised and everything, and she played the... It's about a guy wanting to get laid on a Friday night, you know.
Right.
Every Friday night, I either meet a nut or I...
Oh,
or
you
I-
did that role.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a great role.
I know it is, yeah.
Yeah.
I know it is. I know it was. I was very
Yeah.
much like that guy.
Yeah, no, that was great.
And I auditioned. Anyway, but the point is that I understudied him, but I was in the show from the beginning to the end.
Nice.
And I got my card. That's how I ran over to SAG. I
Right.
got the card there, too. So,
That had to just be a great time, living in New York, working on Broadway, hanging out afterwards.
exactly. And it was so real.
Yeah.
Because it was real people.
Yeah.
And you were with each other. It wasn't technological, you know, or
Right.
getting in your
Yeah,
car
yeah.
and driving.
Right.
There were no cars. We rode on the bus.
Right.
I met people on the bus. you know,
Right.
or on the subway.
Yeah.
So it was great. I had fun, and I had fun in California, too. I had a very good time. I was in a lot of shows here. A lot
So,
of
so what
comedy
year do you
shows.
come here?
Oh, I came here in '76.
Godfather
I've been
2
here a
comes
long
out.
time.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. No, I auditioned. I wouldn't say auditioned. I interviewed with Francis twice for The Godfather. The first time was with my old name, Johnny Armin. You know, he kind of liked me, but nothing happened. And then for the second one, after I had done the movie with Al Pacino and everything, I went in to meet him. And he said, "Don't I know you?" And I said, "Yeah, I'm John Medici, but I had another name." Blah, blah, blah. I tried to talk to him. I don't know. We just didn't hit it off. That's all.
Didn't pan out.
It was, well, it didn't pan out, yeah.
And then did you continue doing theater
Maybe
here?
I blamed myself, you see. An actor always do that. As soon as you
Doesn't
walk
actor
out,
always blame somebody else?
Yeah.
No, I
well,
understand what
blamed
you're
somebody
saying.
else, and that's what made
Yeah, that's what you got a $100,000 letter from.
letter from Arthur Miller.
Arthur Miller.
Because I blamed the
Yeah.
other person who didn't
So-
give me the audition. No, you know, you feel like you did something wrong or
Oh,
whatever,
yeah.
but
Yeah.
it just was chemistry, you know. I could have easily been in it.
So you come out here and
So I
you
came
started
here
doing
in
theater?
'76, and I did theater a lot. I did a lot of the 99-seat
Yeah, yeah.
theaters, you know, and I went to all the equity meetings about changing 99-seat contract, making a contract, and all of that.
Do you know Michael Alamo?
He's my best friend.
Send him my love when you see him. I used to play poker with Michael.
You played poker with Michael.
Yeah.
He's my best friend.
Yeah.
Literally, he lives
And
less than
Louise is
But do
just
you know him?
wonderful.
That was the
I walk
question.
over to his house. His house is less than
Is he
a
still
mile.
painting?
Yeah, he draws.
Yeah.
Yeah, he draws.
Yeah,
And,
please send him and Louise my
He's
love.
retired
Yeah.
as well, and,
Yeah.
and I guess I officially retired. But listen, if something comes up, I got my picture and resume.
Yeah,
right
yeah,
here,
yeah.
You know, I'm ready.
So must know Bruce Kirby too.
I knew him very well
Yeah.
because I was a member of this theater company,
Theater East. Yeah.
Yeah, that's where I did my one-man show.
Wait a minute. When were you part of Theater East?
I was part of theaters from 1978 until about 1990. 12
I
years.
bartended at Jerry's Deli
Oh, for God's
for
sakes.
4 years.
Yeah.
The Tuesday night?
Every Tuesday night.
Yeah, John, I was there
Okay.
bartending for 4 years.
I'm going to tell you something about my drinking, okay? I liked drinking at home.
Okay.
I didn't like going to bars. And I went down quite a few times. I went down, and there was a big mob, you know.
Yeah.
And I would ask somebody like Michael Alamo, would you get me a beer? And
Yeah, yeah.
he'd do it. And then I'd leave and finish it in my car driving home. I was a member for 12 years, more than a lot. I did a one-man show there.
What was your one-man show?
Well, first it was called Dread. Got very good reviews.
Did you write it?
Yes. Yeah. Jack Colvin directed me.
Jack Colvin from The Hulk.
Yeah.
He didn't care for me. A lot of those people didn't care for me. I wasn't acting yet. I used to
Well,
give them a hard time because they didn't tip
He was
much.
he was a tough guy to get along with, but you
Yeah.
see, one night they had nobody at the to do a scene, and it was a Tuesday night, and you always had a scene so we could critique, you know. So there was nobody. So I'm thinking to myself, I'm Johnny Armin. These people don't know who the fuck I am, you know. They know me as John Medici. I got up on the stage, and I did Johnny Armin. I started. At this time, I was relaxed, you know? And I started talking about being the Italian tumula up at the Catskill Mountains. I sat at the family table. That's where I learned the Yiddish. And I started using Yiddish expressions, you know, this is my keppel, this is my tukus. Oh, no, it's the other way around. You know, I had all of these jokes. And I started talking about the Catskill Mountains. Then I talked about being a monk and, you know, getting out of the monkery and telling my wife, I want to be a stand-up comic. I talked about my life.
Right, right.
But I made it funny, all right? I did what Milton Berle says a comic really does. A comic says things funny. He doesn't say funny things. He says things funny.
And then he pulls out his penis. Is that what Berle said?
Then he steals somebody else's joke.
Yeah. So you knew Lynn Lowry?
Very well. I still do. We have her email. Once in a while, she lets me know what she's in. She's living on the East Coast, I think. And
Is she? She was playing a hooker in something. Then she
Yeah, she
picked up
always-
on me in the bar when I was like 21 years old.
she's always playing
Yeah.
something. She's in a lot of horror movies.
And you right, yeah, and
it's
you
funny
knew
that you know Michael.
and you knew
Yeah.
you knew Michael Fox, which is why Michael J. Fox had to put the J in there.
They're related? I didn't know.
No. But when Michael,
he just
when
did it
Michael
because of
Fox,
Mike
Michael
Fox.
J. Fox went to join, there was already a Michael
Okay.
Fox.
Michael Fox used to critique every Tuesday night. He'd sit somewhere in the back. I can't hear you.
Right.
I couldn't hear you through the whole scene. That was his critique all the time.
Tom Bellin,
Yes, I loved Tom.
Dave Cox.
David, yeah, David.
David Cox?
In fact, David, I helped him build that theater.
Which theater? I
The
helped
theater-
him build.
well-
Which one?
Well, it's on the corner of Lancashire, right off the corner.
The tall theater.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The two-story thing.
Well, did you help him build the
I
other
did
one
not-
that was in the old mortuary, the Renegade Theater? I helped him build the Alliance Theater, the Renegade Theater.
You mean the one on Cahuenga Boulevard?
No, the one that was on Magnolia, right next to Sitton's Restaurant, which is now.
I didn't help him build that one. I knew
Yeah,
about it. But
that
no,
one
I
went
even did
down
my
in
show at his
94.
theater on Magnolia and Lancashire.
Okay.
I did my
so
show
the,
there
The
Sunday
reason
nights.
the reason I'm here today is because of David Cox.
Isn't that something?
David Cox came to me when I was bartending, and he said, I think you could be an actor. And I was like, yeah, well, that's not going to happen. He said, I really think you could be an actor. I want you to come to my class. And I said, well, I can't do that. I was really drinking and using a lot. And he said, I'm not going to, I won't charge you. Come to my classes. I said, look, Dave, I'll probably come in there and steal someone's purse, and then we're not going to be friends anymore. So if I ever get clean, I'll come see you. And when I got out of rehab, I called him. He said the offer still stands. I went to his class. I was hyperventilating. I did the repetition exercise. I went with my close friend Julie Summer, she drove me there, and I was hyperventilating. And that's the reason I started acting, because David Cox encouraged me. He directed me in the first play. We had a one-act festival at the Alliance Theater, and he was very encouraging. And that's the reason I'm acting today, because David Cox told me.
He's still friendly with me. I have his email address.
Oh, yeah, I talked to him.
And you talk to him.
Yeah.
Well, tell him about us.
I will.
Yeah.
There was a John something, tall John. Was he Italian? I can't think of his last. Did you know Kathleen O'Malley?
Very well, and I know her.
You know Sean,
the son,
obviously,
yeah.
because we're all in the same club.
And
Darren?
Sean has a brother.
Darren.
Yeah, sure. I knew them
Yeah.
both. I knew Kathleen very well.
Yeah.
In fact, I have another letter from Marie Windsor. Remember the actress?
Of course I knew Marie Windsor. She didn't drink too much. She'd have a glass of wine. I loved her.
Yeah.
B-movie queen. She was so sweet.
She was.
Yeah.
She
And
wrote
Victor
me.
French.
Oh gosh, Victor French. Yes.
There was another guy named
remember him.
Michael. I forget his last name. Wait a minute. Were you in the adaptation of Gorky's Lower
Yes,
Depths?
I was.
That was a great play.
I know.
So there was a guy named Michael in it. I can't think of his last name. He'd be around my age.
Well, Alimo took my place. This Michael Alimo. See, that
This
was
wasn't
done
his
in the
name.
summer. I'll tell you when that was done. That was done in the summer of 1990, and Jack Colvin did the adaptation.
Right.
I became very close to Jack Colvin. He was a real mentor.
Right.
I was in it, and they were smoking in the theater then, and I told that it drove me crazy. All during the rehearsals,
Yeah.
it really, really drove me crazy. It was a small theater
I
above
loved
a
it.
bowling alley, you know.
Yeah.
And I had decided to go back to school in 1990 because school has always been a refuge for me, really and truly. I got one master's degree in New York. In fact, I finished it after I was fired from Lenny. I went back to school, and I finished the degree, the first one. So I wanted to get a degree in English. And that fall was when I was returning to class. So 1990, I went to Northridge in September when the classes started. The play started maybe in late July, so I did the first month or so, and then I left. So I was in it when it opened. I rehearsed it. I was the crazy guy in the beginning. I forgot the name of the character,
Right.
whose wife had died, and he was incredibly angry. And
That was one of the better plays I've seen in Los Angeles in my life.
it was really
I
wonderful.
remember it standing out for me.
Yeah. Well, that was Jack Colvin. He directed that.
Well, Jack Colvin's.
Well, he had a lot of talent.
Well, I'm not saying he didn't. You just mentioned Jack Colvin, and all I see is jerk. So I'm glad he worked for you, and I'm glad it was a great play. It was really a good play.
Well, he was a mentor to a lot of people, I have to tell you. He took a liking to me when I got up that night and I just improvised.
Right.
He kind of took a liking to
Right.
me. So maybe it was Bruce Kirby or one of the older guys at the theater, because Bruce was a member of the Theater East, who said to me, do this thing, do it as a show, and get Jack Colvin to direct you. I said, he'd never want to do it, But he said he would.
Bruce was the opposite of what I was saying about, I knew a lot of Italians that didn't want help other Italians.
no.
Bruce was just such a gentleman. He was a mentor to me.
Yeah.
Darwin Jostin.
Oh, gosh, yes, Darwin. He was one of the smokers.
Yeah.
Yes, he
Killed
was
him.
one of the smokers.
Killed him.
Yes. He was a good guy, though. I liked him.
He was a great guy.
I know
He
that.
was a good actor. Assault on Precinct 13.
Yeah, yeah.
Not the remake, the original.
The
He
original,
carried that movie.
yeah.
He was a good guy. Then he found a living as a transportation captain, made a lot of money. But he was a good actor. That old movie, he does a good job in that. You know what I mean?
Darwin. Yeah,
What was his girlfriend's name? Little petite blonde. Boy, was she beautiful.
I don't know.
Yeah. There was also another Johnny, New York guy, Italian name.
Me?
No, he was kind of husky. He was a bigger guy. He didn't like me either.
Johnny Roast Beef?
Oh, I've worked with, Johnny? Yeah.
Very well.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Johnny's
he
worked
was
on,
in Last Night In,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Yeah.
I wrote a feature and Johnny's in it. Then I wrote 2 shorts and he's in those too.
You see, I used to go to this lunch once in a while. I didn't want to be too associated with the Goombas. And Carmine Caridi had this lunch.
Right.
Every Monday. So I went to it a few times. So one time I was in the lunch and Johnny Roast Beef walks in. Now, I vaguely remembered him in the movies. I vaguely remembered him because I'm not that big a fan of that kind of movie, but I know he was in the Goodfellas and all. So I see him, and he starts to talk, and I'm telling you, the way he was talking, I could tell right away. I knew this guy was from East Harlem. I knew he was from the neighborhood. There's no doubt about it in my mind, if you know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So I hear him talking, and I say, hello, Johnny, I'm John Medici. And he says, yeah, Johnny, yeah, John, good. You're new here. I said, yeah, I come once in a while. Where you from? I said, I'm from New York. He says, yeah, where in New York? I said, I'm from 114th Street and First Avenue. Jesus, I lived on that block. That's what he said. I lived on that block. He comes around. He sits next to me. I'm not kidding. And from that point on, and I got his number and everything. I've been to Rayo's many times.
Yeah.
I could do no wrong with Johnny Roast Beef.
Yeah.
I could do no wrong with him, believe me. I was in the hospital. He sent me a letter.
Oh, nice. No, he's a great guy, Johnny.
He just loves me because I literally lived on I was born on 114th Street. He moved there from 109,
Right.
109th Street, where the Boys Club was, 111th. It was like a different area, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, I know how it can be.
I was on Pleasant Avenue.
Block to block.
Yeah, it was block to block,
You know.
yeah.
So, yeah.
But it was the neighborhood. So
Right.
when he moved to my block, he actually got to know my mother because I left the street in 1967 or something, I left East Harlem. But Johnny moved there like in 1970, and my mother was still alive. And everybody on that street knew her. You know, she was this little Italian lady with the shopping bags all the time. And yeah, Johnny lived on that street because it's right down the street from Rayo's,
Right.
the famous one.
Yeah. So you come out here, you're doing plays.
I
Did
did
you start
plays.
working on TV and film as well?
Yeah, I did. Yeah. I worked in a lot of sitcoms, a lot of them.
Yeah, I can see you like on Barney Miller or shows like that.
I never did. I auditioned for him, but I don't know. I auditioned twice for him. For some reason, he never hired me. But I did Who's the Boss? I got to read them because I can't remember all of them. No kidding. Murphy Brown, Who's the Boss?
I believe we're right up here if you want to look, John.
Oh,
That's your IMDb.
oh, it is?
Yeah.
Oh, there we are. That's me. Yeah. Okay.
Cagney and
That's-
Lacey.
that's
I
nice.
got Taft-Hartley on Cagney and Lacey
Well, there you go.
because of Tyne Daly, because she heard me talking, and she said, where are you from? I said, I was born in the Bronx. She said, oh, I was from the Bronx, too. And John was from the Bronx, too, and invited me over, and then I got Taft-Hartley.
Good. That's
Yeah.
good for you.
Yeah, she was really sweet.
Well, Jack Colvin's, her partner, what was her name? The blonde.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Was Jack Colvin's girlfriend for a long time.
Oh, okay.
So,
I feel
but I
bad.
auditioned and I got that. I mean, I was in a lot of those things, you know. Oh, Madeline. Oh, yeah. Madeline Kahn.
Oh, okay.
I was on that show. I wanted to be a director at one point, you know, because I really am. I know I could do that. I think I could anyway.
Never too late.
But, yeah, they'd have to.
Never too late.
They'd have to wheel me in.
Charlie Lawton they wheeled in.
Yeah.
But I was an apprentice on that show, Oh, Madeline. In other words, I hung out, I was learning how to be a director, and I was working extra parts. I'd do
Right.
extra parts.
Right.
And then one night, David Susskind, remember him?
Mm-hmm.
He was supposed to be on that show. He was supposed to interview her, like, and do a tough interview, you know. I forget the comedic catch, but he came from New York and he was totally crazy. I mean, really crazy. And he was so crazy that the director said, John, learn these lines because this guy's not going to last. And he didn't. And at the last minute, I went on and I played opposite Madeline. I played David Susskind.
Right.
Yeah. So, you know.
And when did Chicago fit into it? You said you taught in Chicago?
Yeah, 1972. I finished NYU, and I had already worked in Lenny. And there was a sign at NYU that a married couple were leaving the Goodman Theater School in Chicago, and they were looking for someone with theater experience, possibly direct. So I said, hey, I got theater experience, and I could direct. So I wrote a letter, and the guy interviewed me, and they hired me to work at the Goodman Theater School in Chicago
Wow.
to take this woman's place. And I did for a whole semester, and I directed a play there among the students and all. I didn't know what to do, you know. You're going to teach acting at a college level, you know. So I didn't know what to do. So I went to my present friend and acting coach after I left Lee Strasberg. His name is Alan Miller.
Oh, I know. Knew Alan Miller.
Alan still teaches.
Yeah.
In fact, Wednesdays is his day that he teaches on Zoom. Anyway, I went to him and said, Alan, what should I do? So he said, basically do all the exercises that you learned with Lee and do the ones that I taught you. And, you know, he gave me some scene books. And he said, just do what you know. And that's how I started. I taught acting for a long time.
Have you taught out here too?
Yeah, I taught at community colleges. I ended up at Pierce Community College teaching acting there. But, you know, when you teach at a community college, it's a community college first. It's not a professional acting school. So you're getting kids who, you know, give you excuses like, no, I went skiing last weekend and I couldn't do the scene. You know, that kind of thing. After a while, it really wears on you, you know. Whereas at the Goodman Theater School, or maybe your school, the actors are serious. They really want to work.
Yeah. Well, that's what we're looking for. I mean, that's how we teach.
Yeah.
Yeah, Tony teaches.
Oh,
Tony's been
good.
teaching. We used to teach together, actually.
Yeah.
You know, so
Well, I enjoy.
Tony teaches around the world. He found a thing, and
That's wonderful.
How many countries you been to?
15.
15.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah. It happened by accident.
That's
I was
wonderful.
teaching at the New York Film Academy. And
Oh, that's right in my neighborhood.
yeah. And then
Okay.
they encourage you to work in the field that you teach. So I was teaching acting. And I had written my second feature film. So I asked to take a semester off. And then they didn't take me back. And I put it out on Facebook what had happened. Well, from teaching there, I had hundreds of students all over the world. So they started reaching out to me and said, Anthony, if I put a class together for you in Paris, would you come teach it? So, well, if you put it together, I'll teach it. And that kept happening.
Good.
So right up until the pandemic, in fact, 2020 I thought was going to be the best year.
Yeah.
I had gone in January. I taught in Berlin and London and Bangkok for the first time.
Wow.
And I was all set for the summer, and then it all fell through.
Yeah.
It hasn't gotten back on track. So,
That's
but
showbiz, isn't it?
Yeah, it's showbiz.
it's life.
And it's life.
Yeah.
Sure. And that's what happened to me, you know. Eventually, when I got that other degree, I started teaching English. I got a gig down at Los Angeles City College, and I taught there for almost 25 years.
Oh, well.
And then two girls entered my now married life, different marriage than the first one. And, you know, we became the guardians of two children who were distant relatives of my wife.
Okay.
And so we raised two girls, and suddenly I'm home, you know, in the mornings, making sandwiches for the kids, walking them to school.
Oh,
and
wow.
all of that. They were young kids,
How old were they when they came into your life?
8 years old.
Wow.
Yeah. They're very close. They're sisters. They're only a year apart.
Irish
we-
twins.
Yeah, Irish twins. I met them when they were about 4 or 5 years old, so I knew them a long time. And distant relatives, it's a long story, it's a total other story. But they were being raised by the grandmother. Grandmother named us in her will. And son of a gun, she dies.
Wow.
And so did the grandfather. He had Alzheimer's. So we get called to Phoenix. Your name is in the will, and you have the opportunity to be their guardians. What do you want to do?
Wow.
So we did it.
Well, that's an incredible story right there.
Yeah, I know it is, yeah.
What do they do now? How old are they?
Yeah, well, Corinne lives in North Hollywood, and she's been teaching for a long time. She was teaching grade school
Okay.
at charter schools. She's got a master's degree, and she's accredited by the state, you know, to be a teacher in California. And the other young lady, her sister Marissa, lives in Kansas, Lawrence, Kansas. See, she met this Kansas farmer. That's what I call them. And he swept her off her feet when she was 19, 20, and took her to Kansas, to a small town. And it was a very small town. I mean, a really small town. And eventually he joined the Air Force. They went to England. She had a baby there. They came back. They got divorced. And she resettled in Lawrence, which is a nice city. And she's taking care of her son, our grandson.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, I think we had a hell of a session here.
It went a long time.
Oh, it did.
Yeah.
I couldn't shut you up.
I know that. I hope. Well, if it's
It was
too long,
fantastic.
feel free to cut anything you want.
Fantastic. All the Bronx connections. My mother, 137th and Brook Avenue.
Oh my gosh, Brook
Right on.
Avenue. Yes.
You know Brook Avenue?
Yeah, sure. It's on that side of the railroad
Yeah,
tracks.
well, there you go. Right
Yeah.
by the platform. She went to PS 43.
Oh my gosh.
So.
Yeah.
There we go.
Anything you want to promote or plug?
Yeah, my book. Yeah. Oh wow, I get a chance to plug my book.
Yeah, you do.
I wrote a book about East Harlem, and about growing up as the son of Italian immigrants. My parents were immigrants, and the book is called Pleasant Avenue.
And where should you hold it? What camera should you hold it up?
Well, oh, right there. Yeah,
This one?
sure. And
Don't
it-
cover your name.
Oh,
Here, I'll hold it up.
no, you can do it for me.
There you
Thank
go.
you.
And where could people get it?
On Amazon. where they get everything else.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
It was actually published by the Kindle Publishing Company.
Yeah, yeah.
Which is part of Amazon.
In case anybody wants to hire an older, mature Italian-American actor.
Oh, yes. I'm
Medici.
ready.
So, all right. Well, John, thank you very much for coming out. Tony, thank you for joining
thank
me.
It's my pleasure.
Tony,
My pleasure, John.
Tony, thank you very much. It
Tony
was
being
really
a huge
pleasure.
Al Pacino fan with a lot of knowledge of Al Pacino, I thought
So we
we'd,
got you something else to
we get a little kick out of that. So
Thank you.
Tony's went on it. Okay.
And thank you.
Oh, my pleasure, John.
Brian.
It's great to
Thank
have you.
Brian.
15 years I know you. Then 6
How'd you
months
guys
ago,
meet?
whatever it was. We got mutual friends. We just
The club.
The club?
The club.
Oh,
We're
okay,
a
okay.
club.
we're in a couple clubs together.
I got you.
We're in a couple clubs. So, what was his name? Tom Patton? Was that his name? Who created Alf? With Tom Patchett.
Oh, Tom Patchett.
Yeah.
Oh, yes. He had a TV show called Washington.
Yeah.
And he was a writer. Oh, he was a wonderful writer.
Well, he created Alf.
And he created Alf.
And he also did Buffalo Bill, the Dabney Coleman show.
Exactly.
Wait.
Exactly. Tom Patchett.
Did you know Dallas?
Yeah, I knew a person named Dallas.
Dallas.
I forgot his last name.
Yeah, me too.
Well, all right. But yeah, I knew Dallas.
Okay. We got in a lot of trouble together, in a good way. I forget his last name. Anyway, John, it's crazy that you were at Theater East. I was there for 4 years.
As the bartender downstairs.
I was the bartender downstairs.
Well, I used to go downstairs and sit at the counter and drink coffee all the time.
Right.
I drank coffee all the time.
Do you remember when the bartenders down at the bar played the music too loud and you used to come up thumping through the...
Yes,
then,
exactly.
Then,
Yeah, well, yes.
Yeah.
The theater excuse me.
Yeah. John Lamont? That wasn't his name, was it? Johnny
LaMotta.
LaMotta. That's a guy. That's
Yeah,
a big...
he's
That's
Johnny LaMotta.
Huh? Yeah.
He's
I know
passed.
that. Yeah.
But that's the guy I was talking about, Johnny LaMotta. You thought it was you, but he was...
Johnny LaMotta. Oh, God.
Yeah.
I was good. You know, he's passed away.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was good friends with. He used to go to the Goomba lunch all the time.
Yeah.
But I was doing dinner theater
Right.
in Chattanooga, Tennessee, Memphis, Tennessee, and Little Rock, Arkansas, a tour. And he was in the show just before me. And that's where we met. And we had some wild times every time our show would get to their theater and
Right.
they were leaving. And he and I had 2 days together. Oh, my gosh.
Did you work with Lou Russo?
No. No, I didn't.
All right, we're going to keep going forever, which
Okay.
isn't a bad thing, but Johnny LaMotta, that's
Yes.
the guy I was trying to think of. So,
Johnny LaMotta. Why do I know that name?
hey, he'd been around. He did a lot of acting.
He
Yeah.
did a lot of acting.
Yeah, he was kind of a stocky Goomba.
Did you know Joe Pesci?
No, I never met him.
All right.
LaMotta was a good singer. He was an opera singer.
Oh, okay.
Was he?
Yeah, he could sing opera.
Who knew? Italian opera singers. Who
Yes,
knew?
right.
So, all right.